one thing I wanted to talk about, on September 2nd, South Carolina Circuit Judge Diane Goldstein issued a temporary restraining order that prevented the state from turning its voter data over to the Trump administration. 2 days ago, from the point of there, another judge had lifted that injunction. One of the comments that was made by Stephen Miller was after the blocked the administration from accessing South Carolina voter registration data. Stephen Miller was critical of judges who ruled against the administration. He posted that there is a growing movement of left-wing terrorism. And he said this on Saturday, October 4th, 2025. Just hours after Stephen Miller posted, let's see, it's and of course, wait, the movement of left-wing terrorism was shielded, according to Stephen Miller, by far-left Democrat judges. Hours after Stephen Miller's post, a fire broke out at the home of Judge Goodstein in South Carolina, and that fire injured her husband and her son. And again, this occurred shortly after Judge Goodstein issued a temporary restraining order against the Trump administration regarding voter registration data. And of course, there are other people who have kind of seen the harm of Stephen Miller, and basically, Representative Daniel Goldman of New York blamed the fire at the House on the political right. He said the extreme right is to blame for the arson of Judge Diane Goodstein's home. Says Trump, Stephen Miller, and MAGA would have been doxing and threatening judges who rule against Trump, including Judge Goodstein. Today, someone committed arson at the judge's home, severely injuring her husband and son. Will Trump speak out against the extreme right that did this? Goldman said in a post. Of course, Stephen Miller fired back, said, "You are vile, deeply warped and vile." I mean, someone who lives in glass houses should not be throwing stones, eh? While the Trump administration has launched the first ever government-wide effort to combat and prosecute illegal doxing, sinister threats, and political violence, you continue to push despicable lies, demented smears, malicious defamation, and foment unrest. Despicable, as Miller said. Meanwhile, the Democrat AG nominee in Virginia is fantasizing about murdering his opponents, whatever. Goodman shot back. Now try answering my question. If you are trying to combat political violence, why don't you condemn the political violence against a judge who ruled against you in your administration? It's pretty simple. Do you condemn all political violence or only the violence that goes against your supporters? Now, again, as I said on previous shows, I'm not necessarily one who to jump on every potential conspiracy theory that is out there. However, I do find it very suspicious that you had Stephen Miller be very critical and say that that Democratic judges were shielding left-wing supposed terrorists, and then shortly after that happened, one of those Democratic judges had a fire set to her house. So how do you not view that as being potentially connected? Am I saying that Stephen Miller is responsible for actually doing it? Clearly not. But I think that this administration is responsible for much of the violence that comes from the right, because they do work. They are the ones who foment, insurrection. They're the ones who foment fear. They're the ones who try and push their supporters to do these things that are despicable and terrible and horrible, aka deplorable. So Stephen Miller may want to whine and bitch and moan and complain about the fact that people are calling them out on the bullshit, calling them out on their bullshit. Well, the lady doth protest too much, methinks, or I should say the Nazi doth protest too much, methinks, right? Because he's sitting here and, actively supporting the terrible actions and terrible decisions made, and even helping to form the terrible opinions that are part of this administration. So I'm going to sit here and say, no, I don't think that this is necessary. I think this should be investigated completely, but it's not going to be. because who's going to investigate it? Is it going to be the conservative South Carolina government that's going to investigate it, or is it going to be the Donald Trump MAGA administration that's going to investigate it? No, they're going to probably just brush it under the rug as something that, this is just happened to be coincidence. One has nothing to do with the other, and we're just going to pretend that it didn't happen because, as we all know,
if Trump can't see it, you must not exist. That also includes the Epstein list. Object permanent, a milestone missed. If Trump can't see it, it must not exist.
So what do you think? Do you think that this is just a coinky-dink? Do you think that there is definitely connections, and that the fact that Miller and Trump and other folks are riling up their rabid base, that now the rabid base is, actually taking action and at the behest or at their word, so to speak? I guess Miller would say that he has plausible deniability because he didn't actually tell people to go attack the House, but, you tell people that the Democratic judges are causing, the Trump plans to be, ignored or whatever, and that allowing these so-called left-wing terrorists to do their actions, and you say it right after a judge made a ruling that you disagreed with, and then that house burns down. The math there seems to be correct on that could very well be a reasonable conspiracy theory. Now, if it turns out to be true, great. If it turns out not to be true, it's still reasonable to be suspicious of what went on there. Just saying.